Shalom, shalom, shalom. Shalom. We're back. We're back. Those of you that are still in the chat, come back on in. Again, like the video, and we're gonna continue on. All right, so let's go back to Deuteronomy 29th chapter. All right, we're discussing what Yahushua was saying, these be the days of vengeance in Luke 21 and 22. Because things change. Basically for the southern tribe or the southern kingdom. All right, let's go to Deuteronomy 29th chapter, 28th verse.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 29 verse 28.
Go ahead.
And Yahweh rooted them out of their land in anger and in wrath and in great indignation, and cast them into another land as it is this day.
Underline where it says cast them into another land. All right, this is what Yahushua prophesied in Luke 21 and verse 20 through 22. He cast us into another land. Our lives ain't never been the same ever since that. That's called the Great Dispersion. The Great Dispersion was 70 AD, one of the most horrific atrocities in world history. Now, remember I said the Bible is a primary source. So therefore, there's other books that's going to back up the Bible. Now, if you can, let's go to, still got the PowerPoint for us? Let's go to PowerPoint. After Biblical Minimalism, should be this book here. This book is it's a pretty popular book. And honestly, Israelites, really, back in the 90s, even before that, they started teaching on the street. We bought this book, and we started teaching. We made this book very, very popular. All right, so we wait till they bring it on the screen. The book is called From Babylon to Timbuktu. Let's pull it up. That should be need the number for the PowerPoint. Okay, everybody see it on the screen? Everybody seen that book before, right? So that's a very popular book. And the Hebrew Israelites on Teaching on the Street, we made this book here very, very popular. Very, very popular. All right, very, very popular. All right, this now, if you don't have it, get this book. Get this book if you don't have it. Now, let's go to page 84. Famous page. This the page that the Israelites made popular. All right, page 84. And I want my reader to be with the highlighted area on page 84. The highlighted area. You can go on. I think I wrote it in there, but if you want to use the book, you can. You can. What?
This is From Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph R. Windsor, page 84, paragraph 2. In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem.
All right, slow down right here. Because you got to know history to understand what Rudolph is actually saying on this page. It said in the year 65 BC, all right? This is 65 years before Yahushua. Repeat. This is 65 years before Yahushua. Yahushua is not even born yet. Now, when you read the history, this is the time when you read about the Hasmonean dynasty. Right? Where the Hasmoneans were who? Anybody know the history on that? Who was the Hasmoneans? What tribe were they from? Those were Levites. Okay, which were actually descendants of the Maccabees. Those brothers, right? And they was also went by the name as Hasmoneans, as further down the line. Now, in 65 BC, there was civil war in the nation of Israel. Keep in mind, the Maccabees was basically running the nation, right? Remember that at this time, you understand the history. You gotta remember also, Zerubbabel was trying to bring up the temple as well. You know the history behind that, right? So all the line or the kingships of the tribe of Judah were basically, they called the crouching lion, basically. All right, they were all in exile. But remember, the Levites was actually taking over and really running the nation. All right, now, in 65 BC, there was, you can write this down, there was a civil war amongst two Levites. All right, and their name was, one was John Hyrcanus, the second. This is Hasmonean history. Maybe we have a class on that. Maybe Ash teach a class on Hasmonean dynasty. All right, these are Levites. These were black Levites, okay, from the southern kingdom. They came through the lineage of the Maccabees, Judas and them. All right, so John Hyrcanus and his brother Aristobulus II, these are both Levite priests, and it was battling for control. All right, so it was like and this time you had, this is where you find it about Pharisees, the Sadducees, all of them came into play, all that. When Yahushua came on the scene, all that was stemming from the time of the Maccabees. But remember, between Malachi and Matthew is 400-year time period. But 65 years before that, we had a civil war to the point where John Hyrcanus wanted some help from the Romans, which was the wrong move. You can read about this in the Apocrypha. He tried to get some assistance from the Romans to help with the situation because it was getting volatile, which was the wrong move. So read that first precept again. In the year 65 BC.
In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem.
All right, so when that happened, he took the opportunity and said, you know what, I'm going to help you, but I'm going to take y'all over now. When we was fighting amongst each other, we became weak. The Romans came in, and it said General Pompey captured Jerusalem. That was in 65 BC. All right, now, let's read the next sentence that Rudolph Winston wrote.
In 70 AD,
100 years later, remember that between those two sentences, 100 years don't went by. Boy, you got no history. 100 years later, 70 AD, go ahead.
General Vespasian and his son, Titus.
So you can underline that if you have it in your book, General Vespasian and Titus. Never forget those two names. General Vespasian and his son, Titus. All right, continue.
Put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter.
Man, that was one of the worst atrocities in world history. One of them that we endured. They plundered Jerusalem. This is what Yahushua was talking about when you see the Roman armies come past Jerusalem. He was talking about General Vespasian and his son, Titus. All right, continue on.
During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people.
All right. Now, all that's in 70 AD. That's 70 AD right there. What Yahushua was referencing in Luke 21:20. Understand it? I got that. All right. Now, the next sentence Rudolph begins to write. Go ahead.
During the period from Pompey to Julius.
Now he's going back in history again. All right, this is before Yahushua's time. All right, you gotta know history when you read this paragraph here. This is before Yahushua's time in BC. Pompey and Julius was before Yahushua was born. All right, continue on.
It had been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa.
You see that? 1 million Jews fled into Africa. These are Israelites fled into Africa. Okay, continue on.
Fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery.
Go ahead.
The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves.
Back then, and also as we're referencing transatlantic slave trade. So this book here, from Babylon Timbuktu, we made this very, very popular. All right, so that's why I said the Bible is the primary source. All books come and confirm what the Bible say. All right, now let's move along. Now, honestly, and let's show that map. Next PowerPoint. All right, you can see the map. That's the persecution in 70 AD. Now, the class is called the Tribe of Judah, Past, Present, and Future. In 70 AD, life changed. We fled into Africa. Then also we fled into Europe as well. So basically, in my next class, we're going to start studying and understanding where we have presence in Europe. All right? And also presence in what is known as Africa. All right, but I just want to have this map for you. All right, now, so basically this kind of end my class for today. All right, because it's too long to go to different parts. So next part, we're going to start going into our dispersion after 70 AD. That's going to lead to what is known the infamous 12 tribe chart. I didn't mention anything about that yet. And also, we still got to break down the inheritance and the prophecy of Judah in Genesis 49. Now, let's go to Isaiah 11 chapter. All right, just a few more verses. Isaiah 11 chapter. 70 AD is considered the dispersion of Judah. The dispersion of Judah, or what is known as the Jews. Let's go to Isaiah 11 chapter. Everybody lock and load for this verse here. Lock and load for this. Brace for this verse. Go to Isaiah 11 chapter. And let's begin at that 10th verse.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 11, verse 10.
Go ahead.
And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse.
All right, it's in that day. Listen to the scripture here. There's a heavy scripture. In that day, there should be a root of Jesse. Jesse was who? Or what tribe was Jesse? We learned about it early class. All right, that's where it all started, because he said the kings. Scripture said the kings. He said, I'm going to anoint from he got a king from one of the sons of Jesse. All right, he says here, in that day, there should be a root of Jesse. Go ahead.
Which shall stand for an ensign of the people.
It stand for an ensign or a sign. A sign is like a flag for the people. Now, when you're going to get the full understanding, this is talking about Yahushua. The full understanding of this. He's the ensign for the people. Go ahead.
To it shall the Gentiles seek.
All right. Now, it said to each shall the Gentiles seek. Now, when you really fully understand that, that's talking about, and like I said, brace for this, that's talking about Israelites in foreign lands. All right. For example, let's go to Genesis 49th chapter. 49th chapter. To the prophecy of Judah. Read the 10th verse.
Book of Genesis, chapter 49, verse 10. The scepter shall not depart from Judah.
The rulership, all right, the royal authority, the badge, all right, shall not depart from Judah. All right, go ahead.
Nor a lawgiver from between his feet.
I mean, like a ruler's staff. The Galvin should not depart from Judah. All right, go ahead.
Until Shiloh come.
Until who?
Until Shiloh come.
That's Yahushua come. All right, go ahead.
And unto him shall the gathering of the people be.
All the tribes and the people. All right, go back to Isaiah 11, chapter 10, verse 10 again. Read that again.
Book of Isaiah, chapter 11, and verse 10.
Come on.
And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people.
Go ahead.
To it shall the Gentiles seek,
Okay.
and his rest shall be glorious.
And his rest shall be glorious. Now let's go to the book of Luke, the first chapter, to understand what it says. And his rest shall be glorious. A few more scriptures. Go to Luke, the first chapter, and give me verse 32 and 33.
The book of Luke, chapter 1, verse 32.
Come on.
He shall be great, and shall be called Son of the Highest.
Go ahead.
And the Most High shall give unto him the throne of his father David.
All right, what tribe is of David's from? Judah. Go ahead.
And he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever.
Going to reign over the house of Jacob, meaning all the tribes, all the sons. Underline Jacob there. He didn't say reign over the house of David. This Yahweh shall reign over the house of Jacob, meaning the 12 sons or the 12 tribes. Then it says forever. All right, go ahead.
And of his kingdom there shall be no end.
This is when you're going to have that in the book of Isaiah, when we just read the 10th verse. His rest shall be glorious. That's when he's going to rest. All right, go back to Isaiah 11 chapter. Verse 11.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 11, verse 11.
Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time.
The second time, because what? The Most High said, we shall go into Egypt, what? Again. Again. So the Most High, he got to come a second time. All right, because remember, if you look at that map, that PowerPoint map, you'll see after 70 AD, that was called the Great Dispersion. All right, we went into Africa, we went into Europe as well. Okay, into all lands. All right, continue on.
And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from all the islands of the sea.
And now next class we're gonna go over that particular verse right there and tell you where those places are. We're gonna use the maps next time. All right, continue.
Verse 12. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth.
All right, so now let's talk about 70 AD. 70 AD was the game changer of everything. Never returned. 12 tribes of Israel never returned. None of the tribes returned since 70 AD. All right, continue.
Verse 13.
Okay.
The envy also of Ephraim shall depart.
Now, who is Ephraim? He's the firstborn, but he's what? He is what? The head of what? The southern kingdom. All right, when the Most High come the second time.
Northern kingdom.
Northern kingdom. When the Most High come a second time, it ain't gonna be no envy no more. All right, read that again.
The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off.
All right, you see that? All right, it's going to be Ephraim and Judah. Okay, go ahead.
Ephraim shall not envy Judah.
Go ahead.
And Judah shall not vex Ephraim.
Yeah, see that? All right. Now these are what is known as the what? These are the top ones in the birth tribe. And not only that, but they're the top ones that got what is known as the birthright. Now some scripture said, Ephraim is my firstborn. All right? Y'all see that? That's why it fulfilled the prophecy. Ephraim had to be a head tribe over what is known the northern kingdom. And Judah had to be the head tribe over the southern kingdom. Joshua was from what tribe? Ephraim. Okay? Ephraim. Right? Now, let's stop right there now. All right. So I'm going to end my class, but people are asking about bringing out different books at the end of my class. All right, there's another book I want everyone to actually start. You don't have it already? This is another book. It's the book of the class or book of the recommendation or book of the day if you want. If you don't have it. There's another one. It's another book written by Rudolph R. Windsor. You don't have it. Try to get this book here. This is called Valley of the Dry Bones by Rudolph R. Windsor. The same person that wrote the book, the Babylon and Timbuktu. He wrote this as well. All right. Who has this book already? All right. Try to order it. All right. This is called Valley of the Dry Bones. I got two books for today, but this is Valley of the Dry Bones by Rudolph R. Windsor. And my reader, could you go to page 54? I believe I gave you a note. Page 54. Yeah, in this book, it's a page called The Color of the Israelites. All right, let's see what Rudolph R. Windsor say in this book. Go ahead, on page 54.
The Color of the Israelites from Valley of the Dry Bones by Rudolph R. Windsor. Mm-hmm. The Europeans had a reason to lie to develop white supremacy. They lied about the truth after they made it illegal for a black man to learn to read during slavery times.
All right, go to the next paragraph.
Paragraph 2. Does the Bible indicate definitely the color of the Hebrews?
All right, so this is what R. Windsor is actually saying, Rudolph Windsor. He's actually asking, does the Bible indicate, is it definitely the color of the Hebrews? Go ahead.
This question is important because the Hebrews are the central figures upon whom the Bible is based.
Go ahead.
I maintain that Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Ishmael, the father of the Arabs.
See, he even knew who Ishmael was.
Moses, Solomon, Jeremiah, Daniel, Jesus or Yahushua, and the entire nation of the Hebrews were a black people.
You see that? That's in this book here. So if you get a chance, try to get this book. All right, Valley of Dry Bones. All right, now this other last book before I end my class, they asked me to bring this book back. This is the book that's hard to get. All right, this one is called 400 Years Without a Comb. All right, this book is rare and costly. I had some people actually give me a call and say, hey man, we can't get that book. I was like, yeah, I know. All right. And you call somewhere, try on Amazon, you can't get it off Amazon either. And he tried some places, said they didn't have it. Said they had it, but they didn't have it. All right. But this is the original one. All right, now. Exactly. That's why they said take this book off the market. Now I'm gonna go to something in a few minutes, but if the reader go to page 46, there should be a note in there. This is why they don't want you to read this book. Took it off the market.
42. The picture.
Let me see that. Should be after
47.
All right. 46 or 42? No?
40. I saw 40.
340. Okay. Okay, let's start with that.
It's a picture of a bunch of black children with so-called nappy hair. It says, the captives were given no means for personal grooming. It was perhaps the children who suffered the most. Often they had been separated from their parents during the capture or in the holding pens. Many had watched their parents die.
All right, then it talks about the suffering of our people, especially the killed children. They couldn't groom themselves. They was devastated. All right? This book is really deep. That's why they took us off the market. All right, go to the next one. What is it? What page is that?
46. Found
46, go ahead.
All right. Stripped to the minimum of coverings, pride was also stripped as prospective buyers. Both men and women viewed the merchandise. To add to the disgraceful treatment, Purchases were harshly examined, contributing to the psychological trauma.
All right, we went through psychological trauma because they was constantly inspecting us on the auction blocks. All right, continue.
Often naked or nearly so.
All right, so we was, men and women on the auction blocks were naked, or like I said, nearly so. So just imagine the women on the auction block being naked. You know how psychological damage that can do to a person? All right, go ahead.
The Africans were paraded on the auction block before large crowds.
All right, large crowd. Now they say African, they're talking about us. All right, large crowds of people. These are men and women, naked, being searched and touched before they being sold. All right, go ahead.
There, they were exposed to minute examination by prospective buyers.
All right, so old buyers would come by, they're checking them out, touching the women, their bodies. All this is in this book here. All right, got another page? That's 347.
Picture of shackled feet.
They got actual picture of shackles in this book here. Go ahead.
Slave shackles came in all shapes and forms for the ankle, wrist, and arm, as well as neck shackles and neck yokes.
So we had shackles on our arms, necks, feet, necks, arms, everywhere we had shackles. All this in this book. They got pictures of shackles.
Can I read a scripture right in with that?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Leviticus 20.
All right, if you want him to read it or you want to read it?
As we get it. Heaven is iron, the brass of the neck, collar, and brass chains or something. All of them that are not.
You hear that here what Elder Ben said? All right, so this book actually shows pictures of it, real pictures of shackles, real shackles. All right, finish with that verse?
Yeah.
All right, go back to that page. I'm gonna read it, we got you everywhere. All right?
All right, second paragraph. Traders from different parts of Europe treated the captured Africans differently. Instead of being confined to dark rooms, some traders found it easier to tie the Africans.
So they began to tie us up. Go ahead.
They were placed back to back and their arms bound together behind their backs.
So they put us back to back. All right? They put us back to back. I hate to put these lines. They put us back to back. All right? And tied us together. All right, go ahead.
Oh, that's terrible.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. They were placed back to back and their arms bound together behind their backs. They were then forced to sit down and their legs spread apart.
All right, so they were forced to sit down and have their legs spread apart. All right, they have the women do the same thing and the men. All right, this book's actually showing this to you. All right, go ahead.
Their ankles were then tied to the men on either side.
Go ahead.
To add to the degrading situation, the food for the prisoners was placed on the ground in front of them.
All right, so you tied together, back to back, your feet tied up, your ankles tied up, and they put food on the ground. So how you expect to eat? Yeah, you got to, because you got to work with the person that's behind you. We got to work together to try to get something to eat. All right, this is what we was going through. Y'all realize when you hear about so many mental effects that we have in our community, all come from this. All right, all comes from this. All right, continue on.
With their arms tied behind them, they were forced to eat without hands. For the tall Africans,
So now, Mr. Manager, you couldn't eat with your hands. So what you had to do? Just imagine you on the floor, the bowl's right there, and you got your face on the ground trying and using your tongue, whatever, to eat because your hands is tied. All right, continue. The tall, it said the what?
for the tall Africans, the traders bound their hands and ankles and applied a metal collar, which was then fastened to a pole.
Just imagine that. So if you my brother, you right here, who's the brother right here? Y'all brother's much taller than me. So just imagine, y'all caused some hell. All right? This is what happened to the Jews, man. It happened to us. All right? And you got another page, and we're going to end it. What page you got? All this in this book. This book is, can't get it, get it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It says, when Africans were pressed into servitude in the North American colonies,
For the Jews, go ahead.
they quickly learned that two things explicitly marked them as slaves, their ebony and curly hair.
They black and curly hair. And the other page it said woolly hair. All this in this book here. All right? They black and woolly hair. Real quick.
That's
Go ahead, really quick.
All right. Third Maccabees, chapter 4, verse 7.
Go ahead.
It says, bound and exposed in public days, they were hurried violently toward a ship. Men of these, in the prime of their youth, instead of crowns, wore halters of their nuptial dwellings of only Sheol at hand. Dragged along by unyielding chains, wild beasts. Of these had some of their necks thrust into doors, while the others were length of the deck above them, barred out the light and shut out the day at every side, so that
Incredible. 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 All right? This is our history. All right? A little bit more, we're going to end. Go ahead.
It says, when Africans were pressed into servitude in the North American colonies, they quickly learned that two things explicitly marked them as slaves: their ebony and curly hair.
The two things that made them as slaves was their black and curly woolly hair. Go ahead.
Even the livestock of the master received better care than the slave.
You see it? You hear that? All this in this book is telling you, even the livestock, they took better than us. All right, go ahead.
Any personal grooming for the slave was not considered, not even a comb.
Why?
In the sight of slave owners, they were animals less than horses.
We wouldn't even give a comb. Sister, you couldn't even comb your hair. Hair was all matted. Your hair was all matted. It was no dreads. You couldn't even get dreads. Your hair was just matted. All right. So just imagine that sister's not having a comb. We didn't have that. All this is documented history in this book here. You got one last page. All right. You had 39, right? You did 39. Okay. Now, like Ben said, this book says 400 years. All right. 400 years. Look at that title. 400 years. All right. Now, I'm going to hammer in. This is the last scripture.
When was that book?
It was written by a Judite in 1973. Check it out. 1973. It has a Library of Congress catalog card number. Now, this is supposed to be in the libraries. All right. And now, go online. I think it's what, $800, $1,000. Some places two. I saw one place $4,000 or $5,000 for this book. But then when you call, they don't have it. All right. Now I'm going to hammer in the 400 years. I'm going to piggyback over Ben really quick. Last scripture today, Genesis the 15th chapter. Last scripture today. This proves, right? You got to understand, Genesis 15th chapter is referencing America, not Egypt. Okay? Matter of fact, you get a chance, go watch Ben. He had a class entitled The Pharaoh That Knew Not Joseph. Watch that video. Watch that video. And he did another video called 430 Years Explained in 8 Minutes. That's another good video. Genesis the 15th chapter. Let's go straight to it. Let's go to verse 13.
The book of Genesis, chapter 15, verse 13. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs.
I know for certainty that we're going to be a stranger in a land that is not ours. America is not our land. Because after 70 AD, that was a great dispersion. It was done. All right, go ahead.
And they shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years.
Like Ben so graciously taught, we didn't spend 400 years in what is known as Egypt. We only spent 215 years. All right, from the time that, as we know, when Joseph got the birthright, that was around that same time period. Okay, same time for 215 years, started right there. Okay, it should be all come together now. They all come together. That was the same time period. When Genesis 49, when Jacob was given the blessings, that was 215 years completed. Because now you remember, he said, I've given the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Jacob passed it on to Joseph. Okay? Continue reading.
Verse 14.
Go ahead.
And also that nation whom they shall serve.
Which is America, the 400 years, because like I said, 400 years, America. All right? Not in Egypt. That nation, go ahead.
will I judge.
The Most High is going to judge. Y'all know that. Just like he judged ancient Egypt, he's going to judge America as well. And he's going through that judgment now. Because that's going to lead to what? Your liberation. Don't be afraid. All right, it's going to lead to your liberation. All right, now look at this next precept. Go ahead.
And afterward they shall come out with great substance.
Now, don't look for America's not going to give you reparations.
Right.
Y'all can forget that. They might be. You might hear politicians. They're lobbying for that, or they're recommending reparations. Reparations, what is known as used to repair. That's what get the word reparation. It's for repair. They want to repair you. All right. That's not going to happen for America. Who's going to repair you? The Most High. He the one going to give you that great substance. That's the reparation going to come from the Most High. All right, read that the last precept again. Matter of fact, 14 again.
Verse 14. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge.
Go ahead.
And afterward shall they come out with great
All right,
substance.
the Most High going to repair us. He going to give us those reparations. He's going to come out great substance. All right, y'all see that? All right, with that, I'll say shalom to everybody. All right. Come.